Let go of that one particular brush that you use for foundation, blush, bronzer, everything. Let go of it. You don't have to be like me, who has a lot of brushes. Like, you don't need all these brushes. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Oluchi. If you are new here, hi, welcome to the channel. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back to the channel. You know how we do it. So in today's video, I'm just going to be talking about makeup brushes. In fact, makeup tools, be it brushes, sponges, just things that make your life easier as a beginner in makeup. You don't need all these brushes. So if this is something you're interested in, let's dive into the first one we have is foundation brush. This is an example of a foundation brush. As you can see, it is densely packed, and this foundation brush is supposed to stamp like this. That is how a foundation brush works. You can either get a flat one or an angled one. Anyone works perfectly fine. It depends on how you love the application of each of these brushes. These foundation brushes can be used for liquid foundation, cream foundations. Bear in mind that a good foundation brush can make or break your makeup. You need a good foundation brush to be able to layer your foundation. I love recommending foundation brush for people because a lot of people don't do all the many steps of applying makeup, but they definitely rub foundation. So that's why I'm going to recommend foundation brush as my #1 brush that you should have in your kit. The next thing on my list is going to be beauty blender and powder puff. So why I'm putting beauty blender as #2? So for people who don't want a full coverage foundation, but you want something lightweight, you just want to look like you didn't apply foundation that much, then a beauty sponge is essential for you, because beauty sponges gives you that medium to buildable coverage. It makes your work very easy. It looks like this. There are a lot of options in the market currently, but the one particular brand that's sadly known is called Beauty Blender. But then the name is not Beauty Blender. Not all the sponges are called Beauty Blender. The sponge itself is called a beauty sponge, and then the brand is called Beauty Blender, but people tend to call it beauty sponge, beauty blender. I fall in that category, but yeah, I'm just clearing that out. So there are a lot of options for you when getting a beauty sponge. The one that I've been using for the longest that I really enjoy is that of the Real Technique beauty sponge. That beauty sponge is literally the softest. So when picking out a beauty sponge, make sure your sponge is damp, then you'll be able to feel how soft it is. So I know that when you're buying a beauty sponge, when you press it, even as it's dry, it's supposed to be like spongy. It's not supposed to be strong. So make sure you get those ones that are like spongy, they are bouncy, so that when you put it under water and it becomes soft, it gives you like a soft sponge compared to like a strong one. People tend to use beauty sponges to blend out their foundation. You can use it to blend out your contour. You can also use it to set your highlighted areas. Powder puff is now popular in the market. So if you don't know what powder puff looks like, it looks like this. So powder puff is now popular in the market. A lot of brands now come out with powder puff, and then it used to be like a normal thing. You know, when you buy powders, like especially here in Nigeria, when you buy powders, it has that puff inside. It's mostly our mothers that make use of those puffs in the olden days, and maybe when we were much younger, when doing makeup. But nowadays it has become a thing for those powder puffs. Currently, I've been loving those triangular ones. I even use them to blend my under eye. I use them to set my face. I use them sometimes to even blend out my foundation. The third thing on my list is a concealer brush, and this is how the bristles of the brush looks like. You either get a round necked one or a flat concealer brush. And why I make use of these concealer brushes, I use them to carve out my brows whenever I do my brows, and I also use it to apply my concealers where I want to highlight and contour, because this gives like precision on where to put your products. I don't necessarily use it to blend out the concealers, but then I use it for placement. I can use this one to blend out here, but I mostly use this one for placement underneath my eyes. These brushes are going to make your life easier, especially if you draw your brows and you want to carve them out. I like these ones because, see, like for this one, it gives it like an angle. Same with the flat brush. You just put your concealer and clean off. If you're using this one, you just put your concealer and you clean off. It gives you precision. That is why I love using this type of concealer brushes. The next thing on my list are powder brushes. These are examples of them, and powder brushes, as the name implies, is just to apply your powder products around your face. Bear in mind that these powder brushes have to be big and fluffy like this, just so it evenly distributes the powder on your face. It gives it a smooth, natural, flawless finish whenever you use a powder brush. Like, don't understand how people don't have powder brushes. Like, how do you apply your powder? Get a powder brush, please. I've seen a lot of people who use this type of powder brush as a blush or a bronzer brush. This is another example of a powder brush. As you can see, this one is smaller. So if you have this type of brush, then you can get away using it for your bronzers and your blush. If you don't have it, please, there is no reason why you should be using a big brush like this as your blush and your bronzer. Like, it's just going to ruin the proportion, the measurement of how you're supposed to do your bronzer and blush. So please, if you can get these two types of brushes, get these two types of brushes. One for your blush and bronzer and one for your powder brush. So the next thing on my list is eyeshadow brush. And to be very honest, I have a lot of eyeshadow brushes. Like, majority of my brushes are mostly eyeshadow brushes. So I'm just going to pick 3 that I feel you would need in your eyeshadow brush. I know that a lot of people don't use eyeshadow that much, but then I'm just going to give you 3 options. So I have these 3 options of brushes. I know you always hear me say transition color, transition color. Yes, this is a typical brush that I use. You want to get something that is very fluffy and can go in and out. You don't want something that is densely packed, just so that it doesn't make your work stiff. You want something that just moves smoothly. So that is why you should get like a fluffy brush like this. A second brush that I would advise you getting is a diffused crease brush. This one is from Sigma Beauty. As you can see, it's called a diffuse crease brush, and this is just to apply shadows in your crease. So all these products, like, if for instance, if I want to do like a smoky eye, I can just pack it in here and blend it out a bit. It gives you precision. It allows you get into what you want to do. If I say, oh, I just want my crease color to stay in my crease without spreading out, yes, this is why I need this eyeshadow brush. Then the next one that I have on my list is called a shader brush. It looks like this. So this brush is multi-purpose. You can use it to shade under your eyes, in case you are putting like eyeshadow under your eyes and you want to just shade it. Or you can also use this to pack in eyeshadow for your lid space. So if you are doing like a shimmery look, or if you're doing like a cut crease and you want to pack in eyeshadow here, this is the best brush to use, and just gently dab in that eyeshadow. Most times this is the type of brush that I see in people's kits as their eyeshadow brush. Change that brush, use this brush to just pack in on your eyelid, and you will thank me. So the next thing on my list, which is optional for me, is eyeliner brush. If you are not an eyeliner person, there is no need for you to have an eyeliner brush. If you do liquid eyeliners, then there is no need for you to have an eyeliner brush. But if you are into gel liners, all these water activated liners, if you're into all these type of liners, then you need an eyeliner brush. This is how the liner brushes look like. They are just a thin line brush that allows you to get precision. Like, it allows your line to be sharp. But if you're not into eyeliners or you don't do gel liner, this is not your cup of tea. So you can skip that one. You can't forget the brows. So let's talk about our eyebrow brushes. So for eyebrow brushes, you really don't need a lot of brush. Personally, I like getting my brush to be like this. It has like an angled place and also a spoolie. This is a typical brush that I love using. However, most times you can find these brushes in 2 different places. Like, you have an angled brush and you have a spoolie separately. But if you can get this one together, then this is a lifesaver. This spoolie is to brush out your brow hair, while this angled brush, if you do eyebrow gel on your brows, like if you don't make use of brow pencil and you make use of gel for your brows, then this is what you need to draw that brow. This angled liner allows you to be able to draw the arc well on your brows, and it also allows you to imitate hair strokes on your brows. So that is why I love using this type of brushes. The next thing on my list is a fan brush. Personally, I don't like fan brushes that much, but then I see a lot of people tend to use fan brushes for their highlighter. This is probably the only fan brush that you can find in my kit. As you can see, it has gone through a lot, but this is the only fan brush that I have in my kit that you use to apply your highlighters. However, I don't like using fan brushes for my highlighters. I know that if you have this type of brush set, yes, this brush set, this tends to be the type of brushes that I see people with. If you have this type of brush set, I can bet you that you have a fan brush. But then I don't like using those fan brushes because those fan brushes are mostly like this. So when you are applying your highlighter, it goes like this. Like, I know that it's supposed to mimic how you are supposed to apply your highlighter, but personally, whenever I use this type of brushes, I tend to take a lot of products on my brush, and by the time I apply it, I already have like a streak of line of highlighter on my face. So no. So a substitute that I use for my highlighter is a brush like this. It can also come off as an eyeshadow brush. This one is from Morphe. It can also come out as an eyeshadow brush. Why I like this brush is because it gives me control for where I apply my highlighter. So if I want to apply like this, I know that I'm applying like this. If I'm applying like this, I know where to place my highlighter, compared to when I'm using a fan brush, it's just going like that. Fan brush is not a thing, but it's also a thing. So don't get that brush, don't get the fan one, just get another fluffy brush that you can use to blend out your highlighter. The last thing on my list is going to be a brush cleaner. So I don't used to be a fan of brush cleaners because I'm like, it's not sanitary enough. But then if you are on the go and you have less than, I think these brushes I mentioned they're not even up to 10. Let's take for instance, if you're doing an eyeshadow look and finish applying like a green eyeshadow with your crease brush, and then you want to pack in black, you can just spritz some brush cleaner on it, clean it on a paper towel, and then you have a new brush to use. So if I had known of all these brush cleaners, like emergency brush cleaners, I'm not talking of those ones that like a soap, no, I'm not talking of that. I'm talking of like the ones that is for immediate use, is for effective use, like it dries out immediately, you use it on the go. This is good for makeup artists or people who don't have enough equipment. Spray that brush cleaner on your foundation brush, wipe it off on a paper towel, and then you have a clean brush. Want to see how I wash my brushes? You can check out this video. It's going to show you how I wash my brushes. If you can splurge on more brushes, then these last two brushes are just cementabits. It's just cherry on the cake if you just want to splurge on 2 extra brushes. Number 1 brush is my contour brush. I like getting a small angled brush, especially if I'm doing like a cream contour or a powder contour. You know, your contour is supposed to go into the shadows of your face, like your cheekbone. So this gives it like enough precision. You just blend it in like this. So that is why I really like this one. Another one will be this tapered brush, and I just mostly use this one to like take away the powder on my face whenever I am baking. Like, I know that you'll see some of my videos where I press the powder, but for instance where I did like an eyeshadow and I put powder just to catch excessive eyeshadow fallouts, this is what I mostly use to. So if you noticed, I did not give any recommendation for lip brushes, because let's be realistic, you can use your hand and blend your lipstick out, or just use the applicator, or then you can use the flat brush like your concealer brush to blend it out. You don't need a particular brush for your lips. But if you can splurge, then get like a flat brush. That's how it works. I hope after watching this video, it gives you a better understanding on the type of brushes that are essential for your makeup application. Let go of that one particular brush that you use for foundation, blush, bronzer, everything. Let's go of it. So yes guys, that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in our next one. Bye guys.